Adam Shankman, and I am here with our incredibly special guest whose channel you're on. You know her as Oscar winner, legend, icon, a cornerstone of my experience of the entertainment business. In 2000 she was made a dame by the Queen of England. And this is our guest, the magnificent Julie Andrews.
Hi everybody, I'm thrilled to be here.
We're going to be talking about your new book today.
Good.
It's called Homework. It was written by you and your daughter, your beautiful daughter, yeah. Emma Walton Hamilton. And tell us about which period of your career and your life that this book covers.
Andy, about 10 years ago, I was fortunate to publish the first memoir, which was simply called Home. And that was a memoir of my early years, the years that a lot of people I don't think knew much about. My years in vaudeville, music hall, coming to Broadway for the first time, and how I trained to become a singer, and so on. This is a continuation of that first book, and it's the years in Hollywood. It's Homework, a memoir of my Hollywood years, and I just wanted to share what it was like to come to Los Angeles, to begin to make movies. The first movie I ever made was Mary Poppins, and I knew nothing. I was learning on my feet.
How old were you when you did Mary Poppins?
Oh, I guess I must have been 29 maybe, but I felt at least 10 years younger.
And you were just coming out of... how did you get Mary Poppins?
It's a wonderful story. I was on Broadway in a show called Camelot with Richard Burton and enjoying myself very much, never thinking about movies, and I got word that Walt Disney was in the audience and that he had asked to come backstage to say hello. I just thought it was a courtesy call.
Were you getting a lot of people coming back? Of course, it was
we'd been on for a while, and people often came back and said, "Can I just say hello?" Or I thought he was going to say that he liked it or didn't. And anyway, he came backstage, and my then husband Tony Walton was with me in my dressing room, and in walked Walt Disney, this charismatic gentleman, and he said that he'd enjoyed the show, and then he launched into this description of this live-action animation movie that he was hoping to make, and would I be interested in coming to Hollywood to hear the songs and to see the storyboarding, which was just picture after picture after picture of the way he thought the movie should be.
So there was no audition process?
No. I think that Camelot itself was the audition.
That's unbelievable.
I know. Well, the thing is, I think his co-producer and the man who actually produced Mary Poppins had said, "Go see Julie Andrews. I think she might be the lady that you might be looking for."
Oh, wow.
So that's why he came to see Camelot. Came backstage and must have made up his mind during the show. I mean, such good fortune. But the best of it was, I said to Disney, I said, "Oh, Mr. Disney, I would love to do that, my word, but I'm terribly sorry, I'm pregnant, I can't." And Disney said, "Well, that's okay, we'll wait." And of course, I had no idea how long pre-production is on a movie.
Especially one with all of that, you know, the planning with all the animation.
The captain of the story, Andy, is that he said to my husband, Tony, "And what do you do, young man?" And Tony explained that he was a designer of sets and costumes and is now one of the most famous, venerable gentlemen on Broadway and films, but in those days was relatively unknown, only really known in England. And Disney listened, and he said, "Well, when you come with Julie to Hollywood, you bring your portfolio with you." And we eventually, I had my lovely Emma, who is now helping me co-author this book, and she was born. We moved off to Hollywood to begin, and when Disney saw Tony's designs, which he did bring with him, he hired him on the spot to do sets and costumes, mostly costumes, a lot of the sets, including Cherry Tree Lane and the house interiors of the movie.
You
and he got a nomination for that.
Not to jump in real quick, but everybody's starting to join the stream.
Oh,
and everybody's saying, "Hi, Julie, that you look fabulous as ever."
Oh, thank you.
And we do have a lot of questions coming in.
Okay.
But this one, since you guys were just talking about Hollywood and all about the book.
Well, it's all in the book,
right.
so I don't need to talk anymore about it.
But Rob says, "Hi, Dame Julie. How do you feel that Hollywood has changed over the years?"
Is that the question?
Yep.
I think it changes and changes again, Rob. It's cyclical.
Yeah.
Everybody says that you can't make this kind of a boxing movie, and then suddenly Rocky comes along after a while, and 4 remakes are made, and it's suddenly the biggest thing, hottest thing again. For a while, we went into low-budget movies like Easy Rider and all the
70s.
In the 70s,
yeah.
and then big budget movies were frowned on, much too expensive. And now look where we are, you know.
Yeah.
Everything
Marvel.
from Batman, excuse me, Spider-Man, Batman.
Yeah, superheroes
And Star Wars began it all.
And science fiction, I know.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting, you're right, it does keep coming around and
but
around
that's
and
what
around.
my husband Blake Edwards, my lovely husband of 41 years, said everything is cyclical in Hollywood.
And now, because of streaming and all of that, it seems like, well, here's something interesting, is that not only has comedy moved largely to streaming, it's very, like Hollywood is very skittish now about releasing comedies into movie theaters because they don't seem to make the kind of money that they used to.
That's funny. Yeah.
But what is making money now again? Musicals.
Good. Long may that continue. and I hope they do come back. Original musicals.
Original musicals.
Would be wonderful.
I know.
Oh, well, Poppins was one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually what you see used to be that what you saw on Broadway you would eventually see in a musical or film.
Well, you know, Disney made Into the Woods.
Yes.
Disney's making a lot of them. Actually, it's Disney
Well,
and Universal.
thank goodness for that. No,
You
they
know.
really do know how to do it too. And
Yeah.
they have all the special effects.
And speaking of musicals, Beverly, who just ordered the book, says, I read it and loved it. It was amazed to read you did much of the Robin sounds in Mary Poppins. do you still whistle?
Yes, I do.
And how did you learn to do it so well?
Well, I have 3 brothers, and for some reason, whistling. My singing teacher used to say that a good singer can always whistle. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate because my lips are very dry and I know I'll fail miserably.
You're very nervous at sitting with me, I understand.
No, that's
I'm
what
very
it is.
intimidating.
Yes. Oh, dear.
But speaking of the book, Karen Marie says the book was amazing. I cried, I wept, I got inspired.
Is it this one?
This one.
Oh, thank
Did you learn something new about yourself in writing your second memoir?
I did. I think so much, but mostly how hard I worked. I had forgotten. It was really digging in and learning songs and dances and dialogue and learning about film, which is what this book is about. I did learn a lot. And they say that writing a biography is like living your life all over again, and it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible, or I find it's impossible to learn things in the moment because you're always there. And by the way,
No, it's always in retrospect.
Yeah, it's always in retrospect, and you're looking. And now
Mostly,
we live in a time where people can achieve a great deal and become very famous by doing very little. By posing in a bathing suit, by being, making a little funny
Well, there's
thing
all
on
kinds
Instagram.
of fame.
And they don't know what they want. People who want to be famous like that do not know what it is.
Well, I think perhaps they're very busy trying to be famous.
Yeah, and to be recognized and to be seen in a world that's very noisy.
Yes.
You know,
it is a noisy world and a busy one, but anything's possible, and if that's their passion, I hope they stick to it.
Yeah, well, fame hit you very quickly and very quickly and
Very
kind of all
young.
at once, and
Yeah.
very, very young.
Yes.
When did the 3 movies, Mary Poppins, Americanization of Emily, and Sound of Music, all came out in what kind of proximity?
They'd all been made, and none of them had been released. So
Right.
I was having this wonderful learning time and playing at making movies as well, having a fine time.
And no one bothering you.
And nobody
and living on
bothering me.
sets.
Yes.
Where everybody's being
because
nice
it was
to you.
hard work. But then suddenly all three came out very quickly, one after the other.
So my question to you is, how did you cope? Now, yes, it's true that people don't have as much insight into your personal life then as they do now.
Right.
But how did you manage sort of the stress of being under the microscope in that way? And also, what did you do? What did you find yourself doing to sort of protect your family and all of that?
Everything I could, yeah. There is a point when you say, no, they need privacy, I need privacy. There's a point where just having anybody come into your home or know where you are, that's seemingly too invasive. But I really love people to be friends and to know who they are and where they are. But there's a certain point where you say, no, family is much more important. And the other thing is, I didn't in the early days when my kids were young, I didn't want to photograph them. I did it once and regretted it instantly.
Why?
Because there suddenly I saw this daughter of mine on the front cover of Look magazine on every newsstand, and my heart sank and I thought, what an idiot I am, because it made her so accessible to anybody that might have wanted to kidnap her or do anything, that
there's safety
bothered her.
concerns.
There are, and I never did it again, not to any of my kids.
Yeah. So but for you, because you have to manage your stress in some way.
Yes.
And
Well,
otherwise
stress-
you can't get your work done.
Well, if the kids are good,
Yeah.
I'm good. But if they're not, excuse me, it's a worry. I admire any mum that can keep down a job and raise a family, and they do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I tried, and I think hopefully succeeded. They're all pretty good.
Yeah. Who are the people that you used to reach out to for support? I'm curious. During that time.
Well, because it's in the book. I sought a lot of therapy at the time. Support, of course. But there was a lot going on in my head, and it was coming at me so fast, and I still felt as much a child as ever in a way.
Yeah.
So I decided I'd better get the clutter out of my head, and I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, well, one of the things that's curious about having a big explosive activity and all that attention is you don't know what everything means.
Right.
Suddenly you're getting all this adulation and
you
praise,
know that,
and you start trying to ascribe meaning to it all, and you're like, but what does it mean? And frankly, at the end of the day, it doesn't.
It doesn't, and it does, and it's all learning.
Yeah.
All learning. So, but I did have friends, not so much in the business, but wonderful friends. Some of our closest friends were people like Mike Nichols, wonderfully
That
funny.
is very in the business. That's amazing.
No, but a sweet, sweet man and great friend, and we go way back, did go way back. And then Michael Kidd, the choreographer.
My idol, who
Yes.
I grew up
Seven
very close
Brides
to him.
for Seven
Oh
Brothers.
my Lord! Everything I've ever
If you
done.
haven't
I
seen
think.
that movie, watch the choreography.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
And a taskmaster, and it's
Did you work with
all in the
Michael?
book. Oh yeah, twice. It's all in the book, but my gosh, what a joy!
By the way, speaking of the book, you know that you can buy the book right now. There is a button on your screen, I believe, that you can buy the button.
There is?
There is.
There
And so
is.
people can buy the book right now. And also, I believe that there are two very lucky people who are going to get signed copies. If you, what is the thing? Huh? If you purchase the
two
book,
people who purchased from this show. will
two
get
people
signed
who
copies.
purchased from this show are going to get signed copies
And,
from Julie.
and speaking of people who purchased, Laura just purchased. She said, "I just ordered."
You just sold a book.
And
Thank you so much.
but she said, "Thank you for calling it homework. It's something that all women are working with right now, mothers." So.
I cannot thank you enough for saying that, because it was one of the things that I held on to with my wonderful publishers, who said could be a little bit of a down title or a depressing title, homework. And I said, it's not about that. It's about what I learned. I was doing my homework on who I was, and doing the homework on my head, and learning my craft, learning about films. That's homework.
Well, one of the things that I think that I've always sort of observed about you from various interviews, I barely remember it, but I worked with you one time. I choreographed something at a benefit.
I do remember it.
But
you flung me about a bit.
A bit. You were very game. You're very. It was a very fast gig. Like
For
you
both
came in.
of us, yes.
And it's that you've always stayed very curious, and you've kept your feet on the ground, and your priorities have always been with your family.
If I had one thing to say to anybody, I'd say be as curious as possible. Curiosity is a great thing, and it'll keep you from being bored your whole life.
You know, one of the other things that I always think is, again, fame it messes with your head. It sort of it can confuse a lot of issues in your life because you're not exactly sure. But one of the greatest things about having a name that people know and some recognition is being able to pursue humanitarian efforts. Yes. And I know that you have done an enormous amount of good in that. Can you talk a little bit about some of the organizations that you work with?
I think probably people ask me what my issues, what my feelings are, and most of them are always humanitarian issues. Yeah. Those are the things I care about very much. And, fame is the most wonderful addition to the hard work. It's the doing and the giving. It's not the rewards of fame that matter. That's an afterthought, and I just wanted to be very sure that everybody knows I am the most grateful and fortunate lady in the world, I think.
And speaking of Keith says, Dame Julie, as a young gay man, you have been a huge positive influence in my life, from Mary Poppins to Victor Victoria. Why do you think your art has had such an impact on LGBT audiences?
I can't give you that answer. I'd have to ask anybody in the room if they have a thought.
Well, as a young LGBTQ man who was influenced by your work, well, there's a couple of things, especially in your early work. Your roles are very aspirational. I once said, you've talked about how, like, I'm going to get pigeonholed as a nanny. My first couple of gigs were as a nanny, and I'm scared of that. I talked to Shirley MacLaine once, and she was like, I got scared everybody's going to think I'm a hooker. And she kept playing the prostitutes.
That's right, she's a good chum.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
But your roles were very aspirational. They linked to a sense of confidence and fantasy.
Well, that's because they happened to come my way, and I'm the lucky girl that was asked to do
you were
them.
sitting and you got
Yes,
the
it
windfall.
wasn't anything I planned, and it was coming at me so very fast. But how lucky can it be?
But you filled those shoes so magnificently.
Well, I think it's because part of this title is that I did my homework. And I say that to anybody that's interested in being in this best of all possible businesses, or I shouldn't call art forms, is a much better word. And that is, if you really want it, go for it. But you never know when something wonderful like Walt Disney is going to come into your life, and magic is going to happen in every way. Do your homework. Be ready.
Yeah, and your performances are very, I think, very disciplined. Very, very. That's what I mean. Like they're like you've done your work. You
know what? I think everybody used to say to me, "Julie, you're so disciplined," as if there was something not quite right about that. I wasn't quite free, and I said, "You don't get it." For me, discipline is the foundation that leaves me free to fly. If you know what you're doing, you can take off and improvise.
Yes, it creates the space for you to just suddenly
providing
let go.
Yeah.
And your gratitude is apparent.
Well, I hope so, because I am.
But again, to address this notion of why you've inspired so many people who have felt other than in the audience, it's again you project hope. You project an enormous amount of hope in some of your choices, some of the things that chose you.
Yeah, well, they mostly chose me. Yeah.
At a certain point,
well, certain lovely, like my agent and my manager and people like that suggest that I really consider something, and I'm very glad they.
When you do work now, what is it that you look for in something? in a role
Well,
or
these
a
days,
character?
I've lived such an age, Andy, that I look for, if possible, obviously, as you would, as much quality as possible, good writing if possible. Just something that I hope, mostly I hope I feel I can do.
Yeah.
Because I've read many scripts that I thought, no, I don't think I would know. So I know somebody that would be much, much better in this.
Yeah, it can't be of service.
No, I
in the right
can't.
way.
That's right. It doesn't lodge.
Yeah.
U.S. Sunny says, "Hi, Julie. Big fan question. What is something that makes you happy after a bad day?"
Oh.
This is getting just very raindrops on roses here.
Shut up. No, what makes me happy? Well, not in any order. But first of all, my kids, my sweet dogs whom I adore, my home, my garden, maybe a nice vodka and tonic, something like that.
Yeah. Strong.
A good cup of tea, excuse me. Are you drinking yours? By the way?
Mine is down here, and I'm just like this. Like,
All
I'm
right.
so excited to be sitting here talking to you. I'm like,
well,
well, it's
I
time
wanted
to
everybody
drink.
to know that we were having a nice cup of tea.
Like, how could I sit with you
Well-
and talk and not have tea?
Well,
that would be.
yes.
It seems like it should be criminal.
Well, and you also have people chiming in who are joining you at other parts of your tour. Like people who are going to come see you at the Grove for your Q&A.
Yes, I'm going
And
to
so
be
you have
there.
everybody all excited.
Oh my.
Do you know when you're going to be at the Grove in Los Angeles?
I need to ask somebody off camera.
Huh?
November.
No, in November.
Thank you.
November 20th, almost my birthday. So
When is your birthday?
November 27th.
That's my daughter's birthday.
It is.
Yes.
I feel so much
Sagittarius,
closer to you now.
Right? Yes, and you could well be my son, Andy.
And somebody just wrote in and said, "Thank you for saying this about discipline. I have been often criticized for mine. It was a great comfort to hear your inspirational thoughts about it."
Yeah, it just gives you a rooted feeling. If you're floundering around trying to find what it is you want to do, there's not much room for any. It's particularly true of singing for me.
Singing and dancing and the whole how you came into the business and all that, you couldn't have done it without a very acute
Well, I had
level
a
of
very,
discipline.
very good training as a singer. That was my stock in trade for many, many, many years. And then I learned the rest as I went along.
Okay, so I have a funny question about some of the characters that you got to play in the book. So when I'm dealing with actors, there's always a moment at which they either they put on a piece of clothing, or that something happens with a wig or a hair, something like that, and suddenly they suddenly know who they are.
Yes.
They become the character. What was that for you in Sound of Music?
Actually, I am one of those. I'm told that Laurence Olivier, never felt completely in character until he put on the costume.
Yeah.
I do know that in My Fair Lady, for instance, the minute I put on that beaten up little hat and those boots, I felt like Eliza Doolittle. But Sound of Music, gosh, I was still learning on my feet in that one. Costumes, I guess. Costumes.
Did you color your hair for Maria?
Well, Robert Wise, our terrific director, I had brown hair and a few highlights, and it's kind of dark at the back, and he said, you could go a little lighter, a few more highlights. And so I went for a few more highlights, and there was a disastrous thing that happened, was that when I came out from under the tinfoil, I was orange all over. And so it was, now what do we do?
You went from angel to like clown.
Yeah, something like that. So it had really gotten botched up. So then Bob said, well, you better, let's just re-dye it and bring you up and even lighter. And let's make you blonde all over. And for the longest time it was easier to touch up on the film.
Right.
I'm naturally just a genuine mouse color, But for the film, that helped. It was a very lucky turn of good fortune because it was right for the role.
Do you remember what the first scenes you shot for Sound of Music were?
Yes, the favorite things bedroom scene.
Was one of the first things you shot?
Yes, it was. You don't
Oh,
shoot
that's
in
interesting.
sequence.
Oh, no,
and
I know.
and the last thing I shot was the opening scene of the movie.
Oh, was the mountaintop?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but the first one was with all the kids in the bedroom singing.
That's interesting.
And it was great because we all bonded.
So,
and we were all nervous.
by the way, I just watched the Oprah episode with the reuniting of the entire cast.
Did you
Like,
really?
that is stunning to watch
Is
with
it?
the great-grandchildren of the Von Trapps.
I know.
Singing and everybody together.
Yeah. And for us to get together, whenever we got together, those kids, no matter what age.
Yeah.
And I followed them when they got married a little
Yeah.
bit. And some of them, sadly, are no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
Some are.
Yeah.
You guys,
Yeah.
I'm going to get in trouble if I don't ask this because a
Ask.
lot of the fans are asking about another Princess Diaries.
I know what that question is.
Yeah, and they're all asking, and they said that they love you and Anne together.
I love
Yeah,
Anna
yeah.
and me together because she's such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
She is, and she's
Right at the beginning.
oh yeah, and we had a good time, and we would again. I've heard that she would like to do it. If it happens, I would love to do it. To my knowledge, I don't believe anything has been developed yet. I believe there's a lot of talk. If you hear anything, let me know, and I mean that most truly. I don't know.
By the way, that seems ripe to be developed into a musical.
Think about it, though. How long ago was it that was made?
Oh my God, the first Princess Diaries?
No, the second one.
Oh,
which
the second one.
continued along. I guess it's 10 years,
10 years?
more.
16 years was the second last one?
I'm being told it's 16 years. So now, how do you deal with my age and Annie, who's now got two gorgeous kids?
Yeah, well, maybe she's got her
Maybe
kids.
we-
Maybe
yeah,
that's
maybe
the
we
story.
add
It's
that. I
about
don't
the
know.
kids and going to Genovia and
But it's not as easy to be as fresh and young as if we just left off
Yeah.
the other movie, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. You're both looking pretty good.
I love you, Andy. I love you.
You guys, we're almost out of time, but another question that I've seen a lot is there one favorite prop that you have from a movie that you still have?
The only prop I have from a movie is a pair of Mary Poppins boots from the Jolly Holiday sequence. And
You must have had a lot of them too.
no, I
They
haven't. No,
They must have made several.
no. I
pairs,
just
no?
asked if I could have them because they were kind of pretty and they laced up the side and they were so sweet. Not that I would.
Oh,
wear
the
them.
spats.
Yes,
Oh,
the ones in the
right.
pretty
Yeah,
costume, the
yeah,
really
yeah.
pretty costume. And so
I used to
I
make
had
that
them,
costume.
and my husband filled them for me with sand that's permanent, and they became the best doorstops for a while. So my feet are placed around the house from place to place.
That is extraordinary. For Mary, what? Because that was really your first movie, so entering into that character and making the decisions about how she was going to become as you were finding her. Like, how long did it take you to really find
It
Mary?
always, it seems, for me, it takes me about a better part of a week or 2 weeks
Right.
to kind of slide under the wire and feel that I have landed where I need to be for a role. You're always so unsure that you're doing it right. Everything is fresh every time you come to it.
I know.
A new film, a new this, a new that, new character. So there does come a day, though, when you suddenly think, oh, I feel a little bit more lodged today, a little more firm.
And then when you're exploring like your role in 10, you know what I mean?
That was
So,
well, I did have my gorgeous Blake, my husband, who directed it, wrote it, produced it, which he did on most of his films. I did have him to guide me.
Yeah.
And I knew I was in very safe hands.
You guys, we are almost out of time.
It's
But Sarah just said, and I thought this would be a nice question to end on from her. She said, "Hello, you are the reason I became an art teacher, to help children want to pursue the arts. Thank you, Julie."
bravo. Thank you. Thank you. Pass on everything you can to them.
Are we done?
We're out of time. We're almost out of time, so you
We
guys
are.
can say
Say
goodbye.
Say goodbye, Andy.
Bye. Bye, everybody. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Please go out and buy homework. By
Just click the button.
Just click the button by the magnificent Julie Andrews and her gorgeous daughter, Emma.
Thank you for a lovely interview, and I know Emma sends the best. She's often online with people, but
Yeah.
this is rare for me, and thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in.
Yeah, this has been a joy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Bye.